Welcome to Actions and Limits. My name is Justin Atherton. I'm the Peak Performance Consultant for Confidence Unchained. With me as always is Paul Fortune. Paul is a mindset coach and the founder of A Call to Action. And together, we make Actions and Limits. Welcome to the show, the podcast where we talk about the actions we can take and the limits we create. Make sure to click that subscribe button on the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook so you don't miss any upcoming content. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, whichever one is your favorite, make sure you subscribe on there as well so you're updated whenever we have a new episode. Paul, I'm excited for our guest to come on today. I know you're familiar with her. Erin Summ is going to be on the show, and she's going to talk to us about confidence, man. And that's right up my alley. So I'm excited to bring her out.
Yeah, and I think before we bring her out, I think that I want to get your definition of confidence because it's different than other people's definition that I've heard. You have a unique blend on it, and I'd like a little bit of a review on that for our viewers to get back into that.
Yeah, because I do get asked this quite often, with my business, Confidence Unchained. People come to me and, how can I get more confidence? How do I become more confident? How do I work on the skill of confidence? And I don't believe that confidence is a skill. I think it's more of a state of mind, because I think we could all list, so many different characteristics on what makes someone confident. It could be, their posture, their eye contact, the way that they project their voice, the way that they walk around the room, the way that they, take action without caring what other people think. There's so many things that come into confidence. And a lot of it is contextual. So I think that it's really a state of being, because it's how other people perceive you as being confident. It's not really something that you can physically work on by itself, because it has to do with your mindset. It has to do with the way that you project yourself. Are you being authentic? Because I think the authenticity comes into play quite a bit with confidence. Because if you're not being yourself, you're not really going to be confident in that. If you're pretending to be something else that you're not, it shows that there's a lack of confidence in what's going on there.
Yeah, and I think that Erin is going to be right on the same lines as you. So it'll be interesting how she perceives the information and how she tells her clients what confidence means to her. It's definitely similar, but there's different buzzwords that you use that she doesn't use. And I think a lot of it has to do with her working with predominantly women and you working predominantly with men. So there's different language there that you guys use, but it's all good stuff and it's all blended together, good for everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited to bring her out because from checking out her bio, it looks like she's got a lot of different tools for her clients. So I'm excited to pick her brain on that and see what all of this is that she's working on. So, I think we should go ahead and bring her out.
Let's do it.
All right. So Erin Summ is an international confidence transformation coach, sought after speaker, creator of Bold Confident You Unleash card deck and journal, author of Stand Up and Shine, 60-Day Confidence Discovery Journal, and co-author of Catch Your Star. She hosts her own events and retreats, passionate about supporting women's business owners to get past their own fears, gain confidence, and make more money. Erin has been on her own journey from shy to confident since 2008. She used to be so fearful of being seen and heard in school, the thought alone of asking a question gave her major anxiety and she'd chicken out. But her vision was always bigger than her fears. And Erin holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and is also a certified professional coach. All right, so everyone, welcome Erin Summ to the show. Erin, so glad to have you here on the Actions and Limits podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
I, Paul and I, we were talking about your bio. It's very impressive. Paul was saying, you know, you might be the female version of like what I do, the confidence. I love that aspect, talking about confidence and being that coach, you know, for the women that you work with. How'd you
Yeah.
get into this world? Like, what inspired you to become a confidence coach for women?
Well, it was a kind of a long journey, but so I'll share a little bit about my story. I actually used to be very shy. So to be a confidence coach now is a big leap from where I used to be. But I remember even as a kid, not really being too shy to talk to some people and wanting to make a big difference. I had that desire to make an impact in the world. And so I went through school, graduated from college with a psychology degree, and I remember even sitting in my psych classes in college and having a question run through my mind and being absolutely panicked at the thought of raising my hand. Like, I never actually raised my hand. I was way too scared. Um, so, after I graduated from that, I went to work in a group home with foster kids, which I loved, but I didn't feel that real fulfillment that I wanted. And so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and I had gone to, at that point, a few network marketing parties, and I ended up joining the women's team, who I've been to a few of her parties, and she asked me several times. Every time I met her, I'd meet her so many times, and she said, "Oh, absolutely not. I do not speak in front of people. I'm way too shy. I don't sell things." And something, though, triggered inside me, and I knew that that was something that I needed to do in order to make that impact in the world. Eventually, to reach that vision, I needed to get outside my comfort zone. So I was not selling jewelry or makeup, though. I was doing passion parties. So I was actually, yeah. So I went from too shy to speak to people, and really putting myself out there, to selling romance enhancers. And I did that for 5 years, and I built my confidence, and I really fell in love with coaching. I had a coach in that business, and she really taught me about mindset and us being able to change our mindset and change our beliefs and all those types of things, that we learn. And I fell in love with it, and I decided I wanted to become a coach. And it took me a while to realize that I really wanted to help women like me who have a big vision, but have some fears, have some limiting beliefs around going after that, who don't feel worthy enough, who don't really believe in themselves. So that's the very short version of my story. But yeah, I used to be very shy, and now I help women to build their confidence.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Thanks.
it's funny how that switch you flipped. It's like okay, I'm going from shy, now I'm gonna do the romance parties where you're kind of put yourself out of your comfort zone, right? And even
Yeah.
seeing other people out of their comfort zone talking about things that maybe they don't talk about with everyone else. And
Mhm.
that's an interesting transition, right? To being that confidence coach. You're like, hey, if I could do this, if I could talk about this, I could talk about anything, right?
Yeah, right.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Thanks.
Was there a eureka moment when you were going through this transition of like, oh, you know what? I got this. I can get in front of people now. Let's go. I can talk to anybody.
I wouldn't say there was a eureka moment. I would say there was a lot of baby steps and feel the fear and do it anyway and fake it till you make it. um, the very first speech I gave, I knew I had to become a speaker, and I was terrified. The very first speech I gave, I wrote it out word for word, and I read the whole thing. So that was the very first experience of speaking publicly for my business. And I was really scared, but I knew everyone there, and it was a small group that I'd been going to every week, and I did it. And it was not ideal, but that's how you have to get started sometimes, right? When you're really terrified, sometimes you just have to take that leap, and sometimes it's not that pretty, but
Sure.
make
Yeah,
it
that makes
happen.
sense. So
Yeah.
it seems like you're doing so many different things because I want to ask you what this is, this bold, confident, you unleash card deck and journal, because you're doing
Mm,
that. You've got these, other discovery journals. It sounds like you've got all these little things going on, which it sounds like these are tools for your clients to use. How
yeah.
did you come up with this, and what are they?
Yeah. I'll show you. I have them right here.
Okay.
So it's actually a card deck, like a oracle card deck, kind of, where there's,
Okay.
48 cards in the deck, and they're all about different, different topics on each one. And some of them have little lessons on the back, or they have questions, empowering questions to help them to discover, their self-worth, or to love themselves more, or to take a bold action today. Different things that have to do with their confidence and building that so that they can really transform from the inside out. So some of them are just simply an affirmation, and some of them are really going to help them dig deep, and they can get the journal to go with that too, to journal out the questions from the cards.
Do they just go through like every day, or is it like you pull a random one out and it's like, this is what I'm doing today, like for 48 days, like you said, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they can kind of do it how they like, but I do encourage them to do it one a day.
Okay.
So they can pick, like if they picked this one, you're amazing. So it kind of helps them to dig deep on the back. What makes you amazing? What are your skills and talents? What is it about you that's amazing? Because you are amazing, right? We all are amazing. And so they journal about it. And I tell them, if you pull the same card multiple times, which they probably will, that's a sign that that's something that they really need to pay attention to and really need to focus on.
Oh, that's cool. I like that, Erin.
Thanks.
You also developed the 3 keys of confidence. Can you go into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So over the years, I've talking to women, coaching women, I've really started to understand what it is that gets in our way as women, not believing in ourselves, not having clarity about what we want or our vision, feeling unworthy, feeling undeserving, all these different things that get in our way. And so I really, instead of having these 25 keys to confidence, right? Because that's way too hard for people to remember, I have the 3 keys. And the 3 keys are vision, beliefs, and self-love. And underneath each key are several different concepts and ways to build their confidence and things that they need to look at and dig deep in within themselves to build that confidence. Take bold actions, things like that. That will help you get outside your comfort zone and build your confidence really quickly. There's scary things sometimes, especially when we don't believe in ourselves enough to take those actions. But those are the things that are really going to support them in growing.
In those 3 keys, what have you seen that people struggle with the most?
Self-worth, feeling like they're enough is a really big one. A lot of women don't feel like they're enough. They feel like they have to work extremely hard in order to be good enough or feel worthy of deserving anything, whether that's success, whether that's love, money. And Brene Brown, if you've ever heard of her, she's amazing. She talks about hustling for worthiness. And we have this idea that we have to work extremely hard and we have to hustle and we have to, make a certain amount of money or get to a certain level in our business or in the company that we're with in order to be worthy of the things that we want. But in reality, you're inherently worthy. It doesn't matter what level you're at or what income you make or anything outside of yourself. It all comes from deep down within you.
It's so interesting to me because I'm listening to it from a point of view, like, if I was coaching men about it, and it seems like there's similar things that come up. It's just that they show themselves in different ways. Men have a lot of different issues with self-worth and putting themselves into a job and a career and thinking that that's where their self-worth comes from. So it's interesting to hear the other side of that, to how that manifests for women and how they view their self-worth a little bit different than men do. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and we hold ourselves back, depending on how we feel about how worthy we are, or we go after the wrong relationship, or we don't go after those things that we truly desire. We see that big vision and then we go, well, that's not for me. I'm not worthy of that, so I'm going to shrink it until I feel like I'm worthy of that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm curious, who's your ideal client?
So I mainly work with women entrepreneurs, and these are women who they have a big vision, but they hold themselves back a lot. They let those limiting beliefs hold them back. They let those fears stop them from moving forward, but they know that they were put on the planet for a reason. They know that they have a mission and a message to share. They're just not sure how to put themselves out there yet, or they've gotten to this certain level, but they don't believe in themselves enough to grow to that next level. So they're really mission driven. They're really passionate about what they do, and they're visionaries, and they have a hard time moving forward and growing.
What have you seen with those entrepreneurs that is the biggest thing that holds them back? Is it still the self-worth, or is there a different aspect there with the entrepreneurs?
I think a lot of it comes down to self-worth. It might look differently for some people. It could be, there's lots of different things that hold us back. It could be a relationship. I had a woman who was my client for over a year. She came to my retreat a couple years ago, and she was like, relationship is off the table. I'm not talking about it this weekend. We are not talking relationship. And I said, the thing that you don't want to talk about the most is the thing you need to talk about the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so she ended up opening up about the relationship, and things were really rocky, and she wasn't sure what to do. And as it turned out, her business was also really rocky.
Sure.
And so we worked together on that. She started healing the relationship, and they started getting, working on things and improving, and her business took off. And she'd been in business 20 years, and she had her best year ever during a pandemic, in her in-home party business, where she couldn't do in-home parties. Right? So it was like the most insane shift. She had to pivot completely onto online and do her business, and she had her best year ever.
It's so interesting how, a lack of integrity in one area can really bleed over into other areas,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not even aware of it.
Right.
I like the idea that a lack of integrity is contagious,
Mm-hmm.
and which also means the other side of it. Integrity can be contagious. If you get this one area in line, it's going to have ripple effects into other areas of her life. So she got her relationship in line, and it made her business better, and it made this better. So it's so interesting to see how that flows over, because I'm sure you've seen it with your clients too, that a lot of people have this misconception that there is a hard line between personal life and business life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case, right?
No, it all bleeds into one area bleeds into the next and the next. Friendships, romantic relationships, business, everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's all connected. We can't put things into boxes, right? We can't put our life into separate boxes. It all bleeds into one. Yeah.
So with your clients, does it come up that you're talking more about their personal life more than the actual business, or how's that the normal flow for you?
It just depends on the client. Sometimes it's they're struggling in their business because they've got a personal thing happening. I had a client who has her 20-something-year-old son living with her, and it was like their differences in lifestyle, we'll say, was really affecting her in her business as well. And so she really had to set those boundaries. She had to say, these are the rules if you're going to live here, and this is how it's going to be. And that changed not only her personal life, right? Her sleep, her energy levels, her confidence, because she was able to actually say, these are the things I need from you, and these are my boundaries. But it also changed her business. She was able to start putting boundaries in her business with her clients, and saying yes and no to certain things, and really saying, this is what's okay and this is what isn't, right? So it depends on each client, what's going on for them. And I'm really more of an organic, go with the flow kind of coach. I don't come in with like a set schedule every time, because confidence is organic and fluid,
Sure.
right? It's not like, okay, this week we have to work on the marketing to build this, and this week we have to work on your copy. It's not. It's more fluid.
Yeah.
So whatever they come in with that week is what we work on, and we kind of build from there.
I like that, because I've had conversations with other people about confidence, and getting asked, like, well, how do I get more confidence? It's interesting to me, because to me it seems less like a skill set and more like a state. And so it's like people perceive you as being confident, it's not really a something that you can do. It's like, what can I do to be confident? It's like, well,
Right.
a lot of things. There's a whole list. It's like eye contact, speaking up, like,
Yeah.
your posture can help with the confidence. So it's like a state of being rather than like what's 1, 2, 3 on how to be confident. And so I think there's another misconception there with confidence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about who am I being,
Mhm.
you know? I like to say there's people out there that look confident,
Mhm.
right? I've had friends who, they're on TV and they do all these things and they're running around just looking at absolutely confident. But then you start talking to them and they're beating themselves up constantly for not being further along or not doing this right, or they weren't perfect in this, and constantly um, constantly second guessing themselves, right? There's this constant mental turmoil going on. And the confidence that I'm talking about is that inner confidence. It's that deep roots of self-worth. It's that deep roots of self-love. It's really feeling good enough and loving yourself exactly for who you are, whether you screw something up or not, whether you're perfect or, we're never perfect, but you know what I mean? Like there's that inner sense of confidence. It's about who you're being, not about what you're doing.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Mm-hmm. And it's,
Let me ask you this. So with your clients that second guess themselves, what are practices that you put into play for them to help them not second guess themselves?
Good question. Trusting yourself, that's one of the keys, is trusting your intuition, trusting that you're doing the right thing, trusting that it's all going to work out. So when they start to second guess themselves, trust yourself. Trust that what you're doing is the right thing, or trust that you're going in the right direction. When I had my very first retreat in 2019, and unfortunately it's been the only one because we had 2020, right?
Sure.
But I wanted to do it in 2018, and I realized I wasn't quite ready yet. The business wasn't right there to have a full weekend retreat yet. So I put it off to 2019, scheduled it for August. Terrible time to try to have a retreat, by the way. Everyone's going back to school or on vacation. So I go, okay, I'm trusting. I'm going to move it to October, and I'm going to trust that whatever happens, happens. I put a deposit down on a house and all these different things. And I just kept trusting and trusting and trusting. And there was a lot of second guessing. Should I do this? Should I just cancel it? Right? There was a lot of inner conflict. But I just kept trusting and surrendering and saying, whatever happens, happens, and it's going to be exactly how it's supposed to be. The retreat literally filled its last spot 10 days before the retreat actually happened, something like that. And it was perfect. It was full. It was amazing. The women literally physically looked different at the end. We took photos of them, their faces at the beginning and the end, and they were brighter, they were happier, they were joyful, they were authentic instead of this like fake smile, like,
Sure.
I have to take this picture now. And there was a lot of second guessing, but I just had to continue to trust that however it worked out was exactly how it was supposed to work out, and it was beautiful.
That's awesome. Talk to us about your book, Catch Your Star. I feel like I've heard about this before. Maybe someone else has talked to me about it, but what I know it says you were a co-author of Catch Your Star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have a chapter in that book. There's about 20 authors in that book.
Okay.
And my chapter was about goals and vision, and really reaching, how do you set goals? How do you set that vision? How do you reach for that? How do you create a big vision that helps you, keep being compelled to move forward through all the things, right? And I wrote that chapter 8 years ago or something. It's been a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I have evolved a lot and changed a lot since then. I also have I have 2 journals. I have a blank journal that goes with the card deck.
Okay.
And then I have a journal with prompts. It's called the Stand Up and Shine journal. And it has prompts for every day you go through for 60 days. And it helps you to build your confidence and see what you've, accomplished every day, and helps you to really dig deep and build that confidence over a couple of months' time.
Now, are these separate tools that you provide, or are these just for your clients, or how does that work out for you, Erin?
Yeah, anybody can purchase them. You can get them on my website or Amazon. The books are on Amazon, and the cards are just on my website.
Perfect. Share your website with us.
It's erinsumm.com. Very
Okay.
easy. All the things are you can find them on there. The card deck is on there. And
Perfect. We'll make sure to put that down in the show notes as well.
There's a theme though with your coaching that I want to hone in on, and it's being uncomfortable. It sounds like you had to go through that, being uncomfortable in front of other people, and it sounds like that's what you're preaching to your clients. Can you kind of put a bow on that, on how important it is to be uncomfortable?
Yeah. So I mostly work with entrepreneurs, right? Entrepreneurship in and of itself is very uncomfortable, right? You have to get outside your comfort zone. You have to push yourself past what you think that you can do. You have to get outside your comfort zone. You have to be courageous. You have to be bold. And all of those things require being pretty uncomfortable sometimes, I mean, I would not have this business even if I had not gotten uncomfortable. I have been very, very uncomfortable sometimes. And I just keep moving. And now I'm at a point where I'm confident enough that I can laugh through it, or I can, make jokes. Like I did a training last month, and I got a tickle in my throat about 15 minutes in, and I could not get rid of that tickle. I coughed and cleared my throat through the entire rest of the thing. And I made it into a lesson at the end. In the email I sent out the recording, and I said, hey guys, here's the lesson. You got to keep moving forward. I could have said, you know what, I'm sorry, we're going to reschedule, and I could have disappeared and not done it. But the lesson is you have to be uncomfortable and keep moving forward when you are uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable coughing through my entire training.
I bet.
But physically and emotionally, right? I was just like, you have to keep moving forward through the discomfort. And that's how you really truly grow, is getting uncomfortable and continuing to move forward through that discomfort.
Great lesson. I'm sure for everybody to realize it's like, hey, regardless of what you're dealing with, it's like, I need to push through this. This sucks. This isn't great. This isn't what I want. I don't agree with that was what's happening.
Yeah.
Push forward, right? So I think that's an amazing lesson for everyone.
Yeah. And confidence in and of itself, you have to, these are deep concepts that I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about like surface level stuff. We're talking about self-worth. We're talking about, maybe there's trauma in there. There might be some childhood stuff that is very uncomfortable. But that's where the transformation happens, right? That's really where the deep change and deep transformation happens. And once you do that work, you're never the same again.
I agree. So what projects are you working on right now, Erin? What's the next thing for you and for your clients?
Yeah. So the 3 Keys to Confidence is actually fairly new. It's only about a month old that I've actually released this 3 Keys to Confidence concept. Okay. And so I'm teaching that, and I'm doing a 2-day event at the end of May, which I'm really excited about. That's going to dig really deep into the 3 Keys to Confidence so that they can really catapult their confidence in their business, to the next level this year and beyond. So I'm working on that event. I'm super excited. I really wanted it to be a retreat, but but since we're still kind of not quite ready to be live and in person yet, I thought we'll do this as an event online and really get that transformation started.
Well, how can people check out your event? Is this the same website, or is there a different way to check that out?
It's Erin Summ. Yeah, it's erinsumm.com / give me 1 second. I've got so many links in my head. Catapult Confidence. erinsumm.com / catapult confidence.
Got it. All right. We'll make sure to put that down in the show notes as well. That's exciting. Working on an event, that's always exciting to share that with people out there. And that's the new thing, right? The virtual events to do that, put that out there, figuring out new ways to connect with people, right?
Yeah. You got to keep moving forward. You can't stop.
It's a new way to be uncomfortable.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's I did my first full online event 2 days in January, and very different than
Yeah.
than in person, but it worked.
No, that's awesome. Well,
Hmm.
Erin, we like to wrap up the show with the title of our podcast in mind, Actions and Limits, and ask these two questions to our guests. What would you say is the number one action that people can take that can really make a difference in their lives?
I would say that really developing that self-love for yourself
Hmm.
is really important. And that's an interaction. So we're looking at, being compassionate for yourself. Right? I was just talking about this on a training. You got to love yourself and be compassionate with yourself, whether you do everything just right or whether you screw up royally. That self-love and that self-compassion is so important. So taking those actions of just being kind and gentle with yourself, and being super compassionate with yourself no matter what. And then also taking that bold action, right? Getting outside your comfort zone and going, you know what? I'm very scared right now, but I'm going to do this anyway. So I'm going to take this action and I'm going to move forward despite the fear, so that I can build that confidence. So twofold.
Well, sometimes taking that bold action is a form of self-love. It's like, hey, I need to do this for myself. I've never given myself permission to step outside my comfort zone and do something for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be both at the same time, right? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So the other side of this are these limits that we impose on ourselves. And I'm sure you've seen this with your clients.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen that's the number one limit that people impose on themselves that we need to make sure that we remove immediately?
I think it's the mindset of not enough. And that encompasses a lot, but it can be lack mindset around money. I can't invest in myself because I don't have enough. I'm not enough. I don't believe in myself enough that I can actually make this happen, that I can take that leap and create what I want, that I can reach that vision, right? There's so many not enough thoughts. And I feel like that's a real big limit that women especially put on themselves, hold themselves back because they just don't feel like they're enough, or that they believe in themselves enough to actually create what they want.
It's interesting because it's almost on both sides. Some of it's internal and some of it's external, because we also live in that world where it's like, I want.
Right.
And so it's like, I'm not getting enough. And then, like you said, the internal part, I'm not enough. So
Right.
always dealing with that on both sides, inside and out. So
Right. Yeah.
So, Erin, a lot of great stuff. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story with us and how you work with your clients. It's always great to talk to other coaches and pick their brain and see what projects they're working on. So we wish you the best with your project at the end of May, and we hope that everyone checks it out and that it's another successful event for you, Erin. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad that you brought Erin on the show. I love having other coaches on here, especially with the whole confidence aspect. So I'm glad that she was able to come on and share her story with us, man.
Yeah, and I think that you and her should do some kind of event together, with her, with the women, and you with the men, and combine it, because I think that would be very, very interesting. And I think it would work out pretty well, because there's a lot of things that you talk about, that she talks about, that blend for both sexes. And I think that would work out well. I think they would have an opportunity for women to hear how you coach, and men to hear how she coaches. And I think that blend would actually work out real well.
It's interesting to hear like how, the same thing comes up for men and women. Like I said, it just, the context is always just a little bit different. That self-worth for women, shows itself in different ways than it does for men. But in general, the message is the same. The struggles that we have as men or women is the same. So I think it would be interesting for Erin and I to get together and and have some type of event or collaborate together. Yeah, I think she's got a lot of great stuff going on. I wish her the best of luck in, her event coming up at the end of May. I hope everyone watching or listening, checks out that event. And man, I great guest, Paul. I'm glad she was able to come on the show, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad she came on as well.
Yeah. So let's wrap up the show with another segment of Ask Paul Anything. Make sure to continue to send your questions into actionsandlimits@gmail.com to get your questions featured on the show. I found a good question, Paul. I thought this was it stood out to me.
I see the smirk on your face, so
I'm so excited for your answer. I'm so excited to hear your answer. This is from Jeff in Texas. Doesn't say where in Texas, but says, Paul, what would the world be like if it was filled with male and female copies of you?
Just bliss, Justin. Absolute bliss. It'd be like Disneyland every day.
Just bliss, straight bliss, everyone. The world filled with nothing but Pauls and Paulas would be just bliss. So
that's a song from the 60s, right? Hey, Paul. Hey, Paula.
There you go.
Marry you.
Well, thank you for sending in your question. I'm glad that we wrapped up the show with that question. That was good. I was excited for your answer on that. And you didn't disappoint, Paul. You didn't disappoint with your answer. So again, glad Erin could come on the show and share with us. She was a great guest, Paul. So thank you for bringing her on the show so she could share her story with us. Another great week.
Right on. For Justin Atherton, this is Paul Fortune. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you next Monday. Thank you for listening to the show. Don't miss an episode. Click and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on your favorite podcast platform and find us on Instagram and Facebook under Actions and Limits to stay updated on all our upcoming content. Continue to email the show at actionsandlimits@gmail.com for our segment Ask Paul Anything. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.